What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that, and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at ForgottenSonsApparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garments on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at ForgottenSonsApparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Yes, what is good? It's Kinell once again with another KSC. Yeah, had a few technicals last week. Sorry, man, we was running late. Had to get an episode out, and we was dealing with a few glitches, but we ain't dealing with them this week. Everything is running smooth as you like. Speaking of things that went smoothly, you should head over to the Don't Flop channel right now because at the time we're recording, which is Wednesday, the 18th of January, we just released the first episode of our amazing new series, Adventure Rhyme. For this one, me, Hulk, Boski, GEE, we all headed over to Liverpool and we headed over to Fool's Gold Tattoos and we got tattooed while we were doing rap battles. Yeah, you know that was a pretty nutty one, so you can check that out. That's Adventure Rhyme right now on the Don't Flop channel. In other news, I'm coming off the back of the King of the Smokers event in London, and I'm only just recovered. Suffice to say, shot drinking battle rap champion of the world is me. Must have done fucking 10 shots of straight vodka in my first round. I had to down a shot every time my opponent said the. Managed to get 3 clean rounds out. You thought I've been hammered all this time? No, just in training. I was ready for it. I was ready for that battle like no one else. But yes, yeah. Let's get back to it. Last week we had a few technicals. We had a couple of issues with the internet, which was causing us all sorts of glitching and delays and all that kind of thing. But we got to the bottom of the problem. It is dealt with and it will not be returning. I was a bit upset, I don't like having to put something a bit shonky out, but we are one-take warriors over here at the KSC, so that's what happens sometimes. But my guest is a guy I absolutely love, so I didn't want to leave him with a bad episode on the channel. So with a fantastic subject, it's the return of the Necronomicon.
Yes, let's go. Thank you for having me back. And more importantly, I didn't want to leave you with a bad episode on the channel, Kinell, because being on the other side of the spectrum, when we've had guests on in the past, I only want to make great episodes. So if I can help you make a great episode, then it's going to be worth doing. We did have some deadites, of course, in the Sinister Cinema last week, but we're looking fresh, we're feeling fresh, and we're going to talk about our love for the Evil Dead franchise.
The Evil Dead franchise. Fucking running to this day. We still were fucking since before we were born to fucking we're waiting on new stuff and it's never let us down. What a fantastic franchise. just before we get into it, like in case everyone like missed or clicked off early from last week's episode due to the glitches, I will say my homie Connor here is the man I first knew was Conman Curve from battling on Dub Scandal days, latterly chalked out and all that kind of thing. He's known as the Geezer, and he is one of the team of masterminds behind the amazing Unleash the Ghouls YouTube channel. Check out their content straight after this. Only after though. You watch this first.
Yeah,
we got
only after. Got to keep the retention rate on these videos high. Yes, and vice versa. If you have come to the Sinister Cinema via the Ghoul Gang, then please do hit Kinell with a subscribe, because it is very, very helpful in helping him to get more guests into not only the webcam area of the cinema, but also the VIP studio, which has got some cool little bits and bobs inside of it. So yeah, hit him with a sub, and hopefully you get some good guests on in the future for Kinell.
Yeah, I got some nice stuff coming up. But one thing I've learned about this is don't be announcing the guests too early, because the guests that you really want to announce early, they're the ones that end up not being able to do it for one reason or another. It happens. But it is what it is. But yeah. Let's talk about the Evil Dead. We should. There's a lot of things to talk about it with it. Well, we're gonna like we're gonna be covering everything probably chronologically,
pretty much,
which makes the most sense. But an interesting thing I find when I talk to fellow Deadites, fellow Evil Dead enthusiasts,
yes,
it's sort of a what order did you come to the films in? Because I tend to find that people like they all have their favorites, and sometimes it's skewed by the one you saw first.
Yeah, so for me, it was Evil Dead 2, which is still my favorite of the whole franchise. I came across Evil Dead 2, not the most legal time. I was probably about 6. And my dad had a VHS of it, and it was it looked like a bootleg. It was by Polygon Video, and it had the front cover was wild. It was like this really weird green tone of ash from a shot that which isn't even in the film. It's just kind of like a promotional shot, I suppose. Evil Dead logo is not the official logo. It's just a random font. But yeah, I got fond memories of watching that tape so much when I shouldn't have been, like sneaking it into the player when I shouldn't have done. So much so that I've recently, I've got quite a few display things in my room, including some Evil Dead stuff tonight. I've got a copy of the Polygon VHS of Evil Dead 2 just to have in my room somewhere for nostalgia purposes. So yeah, Evil Dead 2 was my first horror film, let alone my first Evil Dead movie. Funnily enough, I think I saw the original Evil Dead last out of the trilogy. I think it was Evil Dead 2.
I did too. I went in that exact same order. I went 2, 3, 1.
2, 3, 1, exactly the same here. I think it's because when I was watching Evil Dead, I mean, obviously I've already said I was so young watching 2, but when it came to Army of Darkness, it was fairly easy to get on kind of like the horror channel on Sky. It was on like maybe like an 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock type thing, because it's a light-hearted film. They could get away with showing it a bit earlier, so that was easy. But Evil Dead was really hard to track for a kid. So I didn't see that till I was much older, probably about like 16 or something like that.
Yeah, it was also the first one also heavily edited in the UK for a while, and it was one of the original video nasties, and so like the first version of that I saw, like I didn't really get it, because I'd gone 2, 3, like 2 was the one that blew me away. It's like, fucking hell, why do people make movies that aren't like this? This is the only way a movie should be. And I was very young myself and all. My hookup was there was a guy who on Wrexham Beast Market who used to sell X rentals out of the side of a transit van, and that was my hookup, because that man not big on IDing. Not big on IDing.
Well, who needs an ID when you can have 20 quid? Yeah, that's what I think. Gone are the days when you used to have to access certain films via Dodgy Dave, who someone down the pub knows, or the car boot sale, which is where Dodgy
Yeah.
Dave resides. Like, gone are the days. Things like streaming and torrenting and like all that kind of stuff makes it so easy now. But my God, was it fun back in the day when all you had was like a hint of someone somewhere has it. That was so fun.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you know,
Mm.
when you're doing these things underage, and like, you know, for a long time, I was like getting all the video nasties. Excellent episode with the homie Stowe. That, by the way, you should check that out. And the thing about this, like big box X rentals sold in car boot sales was an excellent source. Like, video art was so important then because I didn't have the information. Like, but if it had like a black cover with something gnarly on it and like red writing, I knew I was getting something halfway decent. And to be honest, most of the things that I blind bought off the basis of that has become the basis of my adult, like what I care about to this day that I do a podcast about. And it's one of them, isn't it?
It's one of them, and I think that kind of mindset of like it's the complete opposite of never judge a book by its cover. Always judge a horror movie by its case.
Yeah.
And it's led into like Arrow videos, Blu-rays. The amount of times I'll just be scouting around on the net or randomly in a CEX or something and see some mad horror that I've never heard of, but it's got a badass cover. I want it. Look at my, like, that's not even half the Blu-rays I've got. I want that shit, you know, to find out what it is.
I'm in the way here. Like I've got like, you know, a load back
Ah,
here.
nice. You've got a good
I need to set my camera so stuff. So I've got all the box sets over there. Just got the new Grudge box set, the Ju-On box set.
Ah, nice, nice.
Oh, that absolutely fearsome piece of kit that is. Like,
that's a good selection. Good choice.
Yeah, all like the dodgy Ju-On movies that were literally like shot on video. Like there was 2 of them like before they even made the cinema one and all this kind of thing. And I've been and like Arrow were brilliant because like I can't remember his name. I'm terrible for doing this. Like maybe I'll have a look at it at some point. But like they're all mainly like these hand painted artworks. The Arrow are, aren't they? And the guy who did them's like one of the OGs from the VHS era.
Ah, for real, that makes sense because a lot of them do kind of emulate that kind of feeling and style.
Yeah, they just straight up got that artist.
That's sick as well. I like how they've got reversible covers too. You can have the new art if you like, or you can have a poster if you want, which is sick. But yeah, I think when it comes to Evil Dead, like a lot of the posters for these films are quality gear, like really nice stuff, and they definitely lured in many people throughout history. You know, like they weren't necessarily the biggest, like most popular movies when they were first released, but as you go into kind of, you know, the middle of the 90s into the back end of the 90s and beyond, that's when a lot of the fever for them movies kicked off properly, I would say, and really established them as cult films, inspired a lot of directors, because of Sam Raimi. Like the fact that he was capable of creating this, which is now one of the biggest horror movie franchises of all time, from the age of like 2021. I can't remember what I was doing when I was 2021, but I certainly wasn't making a name for myself in the world of horror.
Flipping like I don't know if you've read the Bruce Campbell autobiography, If Chins Could Kill. Like
I haven't, but I really want to.
If you're rocking with audio books, like Bruce Campbell narrates it and all.
Oh, he's done his own. That's fire. That's cool.
Yeah, so if you've got like, so if you cop the audio, but if you get yourself a little free credit on Audible, if you do one of them, you can just get like flipping 10 hours of Bruce Campbell narrating this stuff.
Who doesn't want that for free? I would pay everything I own. I would remortgage. I don't even have a mortgage. I would get one, then remortgage.
Or you could use a free Audible credit. Exactly. It works like that. Yeah,
exactly. So with Bruce Campbell as well, it's interesting how far he's come in his career in terms of being such a charismatic, cool bastard. When you see him in the original Evil Dead, there's nothing to him. He's very really rather shy and reserved and a little bit stale. And I'm kind of one of the people who thinks, you know what? I actually think that the character of Scotty in that film is more
Yeah.
enthusiastic than Ash.
Yeah.
So to see how Ash over the films get progressively more cool, gets more
Yeah.
badass quotes, seeing him
But
through into like Ash versus Evil Dead, the series, where he's just like fully formed super tier Ash of everything that we love about him. It's funny to see how he was in 1981.
yeah, it is quite what should we call it, like straight like it's a big jump for us that had seen the later films first, because like taking shape in what should we call it, Evil Dead 2 particularly,
Mm,
flipping like Bruce Campbell and Ash, and most of us can't separate those two in our heads, like
no,
flipping.
no.
I'm there going, it's Ash in flipping Maniac Cop,
Yeah.
and flipping. You
And
know,
then he's in the new Doctor Strange as well in a little very small cameo because it was Sam Raimi who
yeah.
directed that. So he's in some sort of future
Mhm.
alternate reality or whatever it is. I can't really remember Doctor Strange 2 that well because I didn't enjoy it that much. But Bruce Campbell's in there and it's quite cool to see him. But I'm just like, it's
Yeah.
Ash. Like not random vendor in street. It's Ash.
Oh yeah, Pizza Popper. That was
The
probably
pizza
the
popper, that's the guy.
yeah
That's the guy.
the
Yeah.
best bit of the film, like, to be honest, and the only bit I could really remember well. But
Yeah, agreed,
like,
agreed.
yeah, and of course, like, because they do that whole multiverse thing with all the Marvel bollocks and all that, like,
Mhm.
and
Quite
like
so.
Sam Raimi, and like he's also appeared in like the 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, which they've now
Yes.
established are like Marvel canon, which means
Mhm.
like Bruce Campbell is like is 4 different characters that are canon in the Marvel fucking extended whatever bollocks universe.
That's mental. I'm sure that I read that they were setting him up to be Mephisto in the Raimi movies, but they never got round to it. That would have been
Yeah.
quite interesting. But I don't think he's ever going to do anything for the remainder of his career that will be more iconic than what we got with
Yeah.
Evil Dead.
I mean, like, yeah, iconic is probably the word. Well,
Mhm.
I mean, it is the word,
Mm.
but like I think there's something about it. I think there's something that they created, like well, when we have this character of Ash in like Evil Dead 2, it's
Mhm.
like he's so memeable before we had memes.
Yeah.
It's like before, before like what we call it, we had social media, like you and your 3 other mates that knew what Evil Dead 2 was and say groovy to each other, wasn't it? It was a
Yes.
meme before a meme. And like we were all doing that, living in different parts of the country and not being able to communicate with each other. There
Mm.
was the 3 kids in every school year that knew about Evil Dead 2, knew
Mm.
about groovy and some of those things, like it,
Mhm.
it and like that's truly what, like, a cult film is. Like, we talk about like how like in the 90s it sort of truly became a cult, but I think like the 90s, like towards the middle and the end, it's not so much where it becomes a cult. It's
Mhm.
when all these people, it's when this cult following realizes that there are other people like them all over the world.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's the period where like there are more people who know about this thing, and then it's that
Yeah.
kind of like alignment. Yeah, that's a very good point actually.
Mm.
Um, and it's just so nice to see something that I've experienced for like over 20 years of my life still going. But I think the key to the longevity of Evil Dead, I think, is every single thing in it is fresh and different. Like you can say, like, of course, Evil Dead 2 is a pretty much a remake of the first movie and a continuation, but it's got more comedy injected. It's a higher production value. Special effects are better. Camera work. I mean, the camera work in the first film's good. The camera work in Evil Dead 2 is some of the best, most interesting use of the camera in a horror that I've seen. I think Sam Raimi just had that quality about him where he could envisage every single shot, knew exactly what he wanted to do and knew exactly how to execute it. So from that point, I think they do feel different. Then you go to Army of Darkness, and now it's like a medieval action adventure film. The 2020, not the 2020, the 2013 Evil Dead, the soft reboot, is a much more serious take without Ash. Ash versus Evil Dead's a series instead of a film. And now you've got the new one, Evil Dead Rise, which is in a completely different location with a completely different set of characters. And they're all spread apart. They're not like churning them out every year or every 2 years. They're so far apart from each other. It just makes it not saturated.
They all exist in separate eras, in like what should we call it? Separate existences, and like with separate tones. And like what you call it, some of them have Ash, some of them don't. And like what you call it, even the first one, you could argue that Bruce Campbell, whilst he's good in it, it's not the Ash show. Like certainly Evil Dead 2, and like definitely Army of Darkness is like it's that, like, let's take this film we want to make, we'll put Ash in it. But like, even though we've got all these wild variations, there's still a through line. It's all Evil Dead, like.
Yeah, and that's bizarre to think that you could watch, in theory, Army of Darkness first, and then watch the original straight after and go, these are part of the same universe. They are, and you feel that they are, and there is that, as you say, a through line. I mean, you can take the original trilogy and at certain points insta-cut big pieces of them to make one continuous film. Of course, you lose bits. You would lose like the whole introduction of Evil Dead 2 with just the like Ash and his girlfriend Linda rather than Ash and 4 other characters. You would lose that, but it can be done. And it's so funny that people don't really like care that the timeline's all over the place. When you come to like Halloween or something, people get genuinely annoyed that there are so many timelines. There's like 4 or 5 different timelines you can watch Halloween in. Evil Dead fans don't care. It's just it's all the same thing. I know it doesn't seem like it is, but it is, and we love it.
I think like it's only when what should we call it? Because we get these like high profile Blumhouse releases of things like flipping Halloween, is that suddenly the critics that don't want to engage with like horror content are suddenly go, but it doesn't even go in a straight story. Like shut up, man. Like horror fans don't give a shit about that, man. Like fucking like have you ever tried to map the actual timeline of Friday the 13th?
No, and I would not want to. I would really not want to try and do that. That would be a mind
I mean, like, if you work it out, for starters, like most of them aren't even set on a Friday the 13th, which is the whole thing of it. And like what you call it? It was Jason's birthday this Friday the 13th, and like you've got to allow that flip. You don't think of your birthday as being on a specific day, do you? Because it's on a different day every year. So
that's so
it's absolute nonsense. And like they put out a film every single year for the whole of the 80s, and like the second one is set 5 years after the first one, and then there's fucking you got Tommy Jarvis, who's this fucking kid, and then he's like a fucking young adult in a what should we call it, flipping mental community or whatever the fuck was going on in 5, and like a fully grown adult on like, and these are things that happened on 3 consecutive years. I think I remember someone saying to me that if you like work out the timeline of just what you call it, Friday the 13th, based on it taking place in 1980, then flipping like Jason Goes to Manhattan happens later than fucking Jason X.
Jesus Christ, that can't make sense whatsoever. I guess it's when it comes to those kind of like decisions creatively, where it's like, right, now we're going to suddenly start moving the time of events all over the place. With Evil Dead, it's nice and linear. Like, of course, yes, Army of Darkness, he goes to the past, but it's not like it doesn't like link up to the films that come before it. It's just right, Ash's present day. Then he has some stuff going on at the cabin, and then he goes back and then comes home again. It's nice and easy. It's not overdone bollocks. and it's just fun. There's just something so timeless about it. It's crazy to think that it is timeless because it's all built on generic cliches. Or some kids are going to a cabin in the woods and they don't come out the woods again because there's evil things that pick them off. Like, that's something that's been done so
You
many
say that,
times.
but it's also like a pretty much kind of the originator of that, and
Yeah,
you know,
certainly one of the originators. Yeah, like if you were to look back at it now, like retrospectively,
before this, we had the old dark house, the old mansion, or
great,
whatever.
brilliant genre and a great film as well from back in the 30s with Boris Karloff.
Yeah. But this
Really
is it.
true.
It was like mansions or like body count films. Then what should we call it, slashers hadn't probably kicked in, and things like what should we call it, Halloween and Black Christmas weren't really high on the body counts and all that kind of thing. So like the films that were really crazy were like your Giallos and then it'd be something like $5 for an August Moon, where there'd be a lot of people getting killed. But they'd be on a Mediterranean island or in a fashion house like Blood and Black Lace. They're like these glamorous, very scenic communities. But what we get with the first Evil Dead is we got some students who were just fucking around. Like, I don't even know if they were students. Like, like with borrowed credit cards and money they'd blag, so they were just putting together whatever they could. So they get hold of a cheap, fucking shitty old shack that someone had access to in the woods of fucking Michigan, which was also their accommodation for the whole thing. And
yes, that's right. And apparently the accommodation and the overall conditions of the production for that were really rough. Really rough. There was like about 20 of them staying in like one house. Multiple people staying in the same rooms. I think the crew was only about 7 or 8 people, and people were just sort of filling in, helping where they could. I even heard that like the cook who was there to like make all the meals wasn't a particularly great chef, so people were just like, "Oh, this is a bit bollocks. What 6 weeks of this?" And it overran as well. It overran in every possible regard. It overran on the budget by at least, from what's being quoted, at least an extra $200,000 to what it should have done. It overran on time. They only had 6 weeks to film everything, but they ran out, and it's like, right, we're gonna have to cover this somehow. So they filmed all the solo bits with Ash by himself after all the other cast members had gone home. Stuff where like some certain deadites are attacking the cabin were done afterwards. It was filmed in about another 2 or 3 different cabins to the one that's like the main cabin. I just find it hilarious that it's such a slipshod, slapdash like production, but everyone remembers it fondly who worked on it, and they would never do it a different way. They like look back in a humorous sense, but at the time they were miserable. A lot of them.
This is it. Like flipping touring over the years, I've slept in some fucked up places, and fucking I've had more of my share of kips in fucking Victoria Coach Station or whatever, and I'd change them all fucking instantly. It added nothing. It added nothing. It was horrible. It was fucking shit. I just want to be in my comfy fucking bed. But
oh man, Battle Rap did that, mate. A Battle Rap has a tendency for you to find your ways into very rough territory for a weekend and never really knowing what's coming out the end of it.
I mean, that was it. Our first sort of collaboration was what should we call it? Fucking when I battled Seuss for Dub Scandal and fucking
the abandoned
that could have been a scene out of a horror film. Like it was literally the event took place in half of a disused ambulance shelter in Middlesbrough, Hartlepool.
Hartlepool, that's right. And it was that was fun. What a cool event. Like we couldn't have ever predicted that. Yeah, it was like an old school fucking like, let's just get together, have some cans and a bit of a laugh in a really abandoned place that no one will ever find us. Ended up getting the PCSOs.
Proper like last 5 minutes of the Blair Witch Project and all, like, but
it was the fucking basement of Blair Witch. But yeah,
it
that
was
was
fucking excellent vibes all around. Like, I
Mm.
still tell people about when we went to Kofi's house afterwards, because the only time I've ever seen it happen. Kofi's gaff at the time was we're diverting here, like, but you know,
That's
funny
all
tour
good.
stories had this. But
Yeah.
and like what should we call it? We ordered like chicken parmos. Parmos is the thing in Middlesbrough, isn't it? We ordered a bunch of them, like, and everywhere does a parmo. And for like there's whole streets of just places that sell fucking parmos in Middlesbrough. And he must have belled up like the shittest one, like, because he ordered 6 from there, 6 fucking parmos and chips. Fucking like, there's a knock on the door, like not long after we rang, and fucking like the dude's at the door. There's a guy from the takeaway. He goes like, "Yeah, I've just had this order from here for 6 parmos. Do you really want these?" Yeah. Okay, I'll go back and cook them. It's the first time I've ever seen someone from a fucking takeaway turn up to someone's house to ask if they were fucking serious.
They're probably not used to that much trade because there are entire streets.
From here.
There are entire streets in Middlesbrough that have got minimum a dozen Parmo shops on them. They are fabulous. If you are tuning in and you've never heard of the Parmo, imagine a pizza made of chicken instead of bread. And there you go.
It's an amazing concept, and done well, it's truly incredible.
Yes, much like the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah.
There's our segue back in.
In a lot of ways, Sam Raimi was the first person to make a pizza out of chicken. And I suppose he was, when we look at the DIY nature of this thing. Like, because I mean, normally when people are doing their first film, particularly if it's a low budget, you know, it is one location, you know, and like, you know, you try and like, so you're not moving people around, and you can like shoot things together quickly, and you can get a lot done in a day. But this is all in one location, and that's not how it went down. And I think it's like, it speaks to what you said earlier about like the vision that he had by Evil Dead 2. Like he had that vision in Evil Dead 1. He just didn't quite have like the means to be able to accomplish everything. But he had that DIY spirit to go to like try and make that vision come true. And I think the best example is what they refer to as the woods, that zoom in POV camera shot that's
man. It's
become so iconic with Evil Dead, like, which I believe was done by strapping a 16mm camera to a plank and just chasing people with it.
Yeah, it always makes me wonder, because I've never actually like researched it, but even the opening shot of the first film where it goes over the full lake, in my head I'm thinking, what's this attached to? It's attached to something, but are they on a boat? How is it moving so smooth? How long is it? Like, it's mind-blowing, but I always
the Steadicam hasn't been developed at that point.
But it's so smooth. Like, it's the ability for it to not go like straight, like a zoom shot, but bob in and out of trees and branches, and in the case of like chase sequences, through, you know, doors and around sort of corridors, nooks and crannies and things. Probably my favorite camera shot in all of Evil Dead is from 2, where it goes through the back of the car windscreen and then through the front of the windscreen, and then it's separated again. It's just such a great inventive use of the camera. And had the same movies being directed by a different director, more of like a, you know, a standard director, I think it wouldn't look the same. These movies wouldn't work anywhere near as good if it's like a lot of still shots and stuff like that. It works that the camera work is so crazy and scattered. I think it suits the vibe of the films.
Yeah, I mean, this like they developed some of the techniques like in their earlier short Within the Woods, which was basically like their business cards to like get local shops to like chip in a bit of money, and or whatever, local business chip in a bit of money to the Evil Dead. And like that was where they they developed like just a camera on a plank, and a bit of the plank could be focused out, so like it can smash through things like car windshields or whatever.
Yeah,
and like
just
this
clever.
Yeah, and and technology had to catch up with what it was doing. Like, because I mean, like, I think you're familiar with the film Street Trash, aren't you?
Oh yes, covered that one with, I think I covered it with Kofi, I believe, on Unleash the Ghouls.
Yeah.
That's a fun film.
Yeah, that was another VHS fave of mine. Like, but like that one, there's a lot of use of Steadicam in that. It's very early Steadicam. It was one of the guys who was like the first adopter of it, and like the guy who did it in that film, he went on to be like, you know, the Steadicam operator that flipping like all these big Hollywood places are coming in, and that's what he does to this day. It all started with Street Trash.
That's fire.
Like, but that was like many years later when it was trying to catch up with what Sam Raimi and Robert Taper and flipping Ted Raimi and Bruce Campbell were doing with a 16mm camera on a plank. Like, you hadn't seen those shots before. Like, so what Raimi was envisaging was it was something in his head. It was something that you hadn't fucking seen on screen. Like,
yeah,
but he knew how he wanted it to look, and they just figured out a way of doing it. And it would be several years before, because obviously, like, everyone else wants to do it, like, because it's that influential and all this kind of thing. It's several years before the technology actually flipping catches up with being able to do what they did.
Agreed, and I think it just is a testament, really, to how ahead of his time Raimi probably was. And I do feel like nowadays, it's been a while since I've seen anything of his that I've truly loved. He's much more of the kind of very high profile blockbustery type director these days. It'd be nice to see him go back and do something kind of like this, more stripped back, kind of bare bones style horror stuff. I know he's involved with the upcoming Evil Dead Rise, but I think only from, I'm not sure if he's in the production team, but I think he's to do with the writing somewhere. But it's nice to see he's still kicking around, though.
Yeah,
and Bruce as well.
I think he's very hands-on as a producer. Like some producers, the name's just there, so we could say it's Sam Raimi's whatever. But like he is like very protective over the IP. Like, he's like, if we're going to do this, we're going to get the right people in for the job. Like when the Evil Dead remake was announced, like literally from the offset, people were going, there's going to be a new Evil Dead film. There's going to be no Ash. It's going to be serious. Bearing in mind the last thing we've had is Army of Darkness, and there's been a lot of comics since. And like, the comics never really sort of, they're fun, but they never really like caught like Ash's voice. They just had him like using the same things that he said in the things, and so like that's kind of like another way it sort of became an analog meme before a meme was a meme.
Yeah.
But like people were very skeptical, and he was like, no, we've got the right people for the job on this one.
I know I was skeptical. And to be honest, it's the Evil Dead film that I've seen the least. I think I've only seen it twice, the 2013 version. I do want to give it another crack. It's not that it's a bad film. It's a really good film, a really well-made film. Is it that I'm protective of the Ash character and that whole storyline? Probably is, yeah. And it's just the thing that I can't avoid, because it's something that's been a part of a character that's been a part of my life since such a very young age. But I think with the existence of Evil Dead Rise, which is, you know, another Evil Dead movie without Ash in, or at least as far as we know, he's not in it. Like Leon is, he's not in it. But I think the existence of Rise helps to justify the existence of Fede Alvarez's version a bit more, because they look, obviously we only have a trailer so far, but they look like they are part of the same kind of world.
Yeah.
Visually, even though they're two different directors. It's interesting because with the new one, they've given it to a relatively unknown Irish director called Lee Cronin, who's only made one feature film before this. Something called, I think, The Hole in the Ground, it might be called, which I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But to give that, I heard that film did quite well critically. So to go from like this massive beast of a franchise and giving it to like a director who's still almost trying to find his feet a bit to an extent, even though he's got experience, it almost makes me think it's Sam Raimi-esque. Like Sam Raimi had filmmaking experience before he made Evil Dead, but he had the potential. Has he and Bruce seen something in Lee Cronin to go, he's worth giving a crack with this franchise because he's got talent behind him? They could have had directors lined up at the door to direct Evil Dead Rise, but they've gone for quite a bold choice, which makes me excited for the film, that it's going to be an original take, and it looks like it is an original take. Going to this whole high-rise setting, which that's quite cool as well, because we're going from a cabin being, well, one floor plus a basement and the surrounding woods to an entire block of flats. It's multiple floors of potential terror. That's quite an interesting thought, I think. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that.
This is it. Like, I mean, like, I think Bruce Campbell's words on it is like, the Evil Dead can be about anything with the Necronomicon involved in it, which is true. You could put the Necronomicon anywhere. Like, you could have Necronomicon in ancient Egypt. You could have it in.
Yeah. Sorry to cut in. That's what I'd like to see. I would like to see, because we know in Army of Darkness how far back the Necronomicon goes. Like, we go to medieval times. By the way, I think it should still be called The Medieval Dead. They should have kept that as a title because it's a great title. But we see in medieval times that these people have a knowledge of the Deadites. There's a history to the Necronomicon even then. So how much further can that go? I'd love to see something like that.
This is it. So you've got this potential, and like I like they're approaching it that, and like it does go back. Like, I think Lee Cronin being involved, like speaks to that, like how much they care about this IP, and if you're going to come to it, you're going to bring an original voice. But it's also interesting with it, like, I mean, like like when I think of like high rise, what should we call it, terror, my mind immediately goes to Demons 2. Lambert.
Great choice. The fun, the Demons.
So like, I thought, like, well, this could end up just being like New Demons 2, which I wouldn't mind. But from the trailers I've seen, it looks like it's going to be a bit more than that, which I'm quite excited for. Like, and I'm also interested to see what like tone's going to be brought to it, because like if we think back to like the horror films that were coming out in 2013, this was a time when it was like we're coming to the back end of the torture porn cycle, and that's where we're going. And those are the only real things we're getting. We're in cinemas. In cinemas, we're getting
that's right.
We're getting Saw sequels. We're getting Hostel sequels, and all this kind of thing. Like, and it's very much that. Like, there was like it had to be existed IP, and it had to be what should we call it, that level of intensity and the old aesthetic. Everything's like rusty and dirty, and that works great for Evil Dead 2, because it kind of, your environment is like that. But like now it's kind of interesting because our current period, like as we said in our glitchy as fuck podcast last week.
Yeah. I mean, we said, like, it somewhere. If you can find where we said it, and you get a Freddo.
Yeah. And that cost me money these days. Probably cost me more than this Streamlabs subscription, which is working just fine now. But so, yeah. Like we're at a time where like you get in like really like quite out there like films, like Malignant being in the cinema and being huge hits. and like things like Smile and that, like so like you can put some crazy fucking shit into a film that will get into the cinemas and do big numbers right now, like. And
I agree. I agree.
I like that. What should we call it? That we were kind of entering that era. Like it was kind of like I'd call it the post Get Out era. Like,
yes, that actually. Well, I'll quickly talk about that because it was something that is barely audible on the previous episode, sadly. But we both agreed that Get Out is one of those kind of moments in the history of the genre which really 180'd a lot of people. It made the Academy pay attention. Horror has a very, very rare hand in doing that. So for people to start realizing that horror movies can mean more, they can tackle real world issues, they can tackle ways of life and cultures, they can do all these things is super, super cool. And it's nice to see that bleeding into other spectrums of people around the world nowadays and evolving constantly. But having said that, it is nice that we've still got stuff like Evil Dead, which is just, you don't need like a degree to understand the deeper layers and meanings of this.
I mean, that's why I consider this what we're in now, like as the post Get Out era, because there were like horror films getting attention. And it was like your Babadooks and all this kind of thing, and that was when we start getting the flipping elevated horror. And like you know, it's all the meditations on grief and all this kind of thing, and I love that shit. But Get Out, like, whilst it hit all these social issues and did it really well, there's no point at which it isn't a very entertaining film.
That's it. You can take a film like that and you can watch it for its messages and have a really rich experience from what Jordan Peele has packed into it and all the little tiny subtle details that he scatters in there. Or you can just watch it and not think about that kind of stuff, but you still have an entertaining experience. And I think that's really fun. That you can that both sides of the coin have value.
And the success that it brought, and like, you know, maybe it opened like people's minds and what they're willing to go and see in the cinema, is that you can put something, is you can have a successful horror film that tackles lots of social issues, but also maybe people aren't as afraid as throwing a Malignant into onto the big screens. Like,
I love Malignant. I think Malignant is
fucking boss.
It's a boss film because it just doesn't care. It runs for probably nearly an hour of, it's fairly sort of standard to a degree, but intentionally. It's kind of,
we know how those films
we
know how those films work.
That's right. We know, like, we've seen so many of these films. All right, it's just another horror film about some evil entity that invades a family or whatever. But then, oh no, it's not. There's a fucking thing in the back of her head that's like another living evil, doing backflips and stuff like the Matrix all over. I love that. I love when cinema, horror in particular, does a rug pull and just everything that you expected it to be is undone and it flips the tables. Barbarian did that really well, I think, as well. Yeah.
So I mean, like this is the fucking it. This is the era. Like, you know, it's like what do you call it? Like Barbarian had premiere at Fright Fest, and like normally, like by the time a film's in a festival, all the non-disclosure shit was done. Like, but like fucking like they were handing out non-disclosures in the festival. People like, why is this happening? Normally, that's like fucking like if you've got a screener like months before it comes out or something. But now we know, like, and previously, in like years previously, Barbarian would be a film that I enjoyed, and like not many other people would have heard of. But in this current era, this what's it called? It's I'll be at a work meeting and say, oh, there's this really fun film called Barbarian. I'd say to like the people I work with that are non-horror movie people, and you can watch it now because it's on Disney Plus, which you have.
Yeah, that's right. I think streaming has really helped with accessibility to certain films. And you touched on a few things there about the craziness of like Barbarian, the craziness of Malignant as well.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're kind of tapping into an area now with horror where, because of the internet, saying this is the scariest film I've ever seen doesn't cut it anymore, because it's just, don't be so stupid. It's all backlash driven. I think horror movies now are heading in more of a direction of craziness. How out of this world can we go? How mind-blowingly original and strange and peculiar can we be? I think people are more,
that's the real word of mouth, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, like there was a thing which I'm pretty sure Netflix were behind, is like flipping every so often there'd be like articles in your uni. I'd see the same article worded slightly different in different newspapers and online sources, and say like, this new film on Netflix is so scary that people can't watch it all. It's like, you don't have the information as to why they turned it off, and people have become like quite desensitized to that. So if you want a real word of mouth hit now, like people are, people are aware that those articles are mainly bullshit. So you don't say, oh, this is so scary, like fucking like. It's like, no, you've got to watch this. You'll never see it coming. That's where the real word of mouth outside of the horror horror fans who communicate with each other and follow these similar stories is like, no, seriously, you've got to watch this. Yeah, they're the ones that's getting the word of mouth and becoming the hits. That's why you have like your Terrifier 2s doing all these crazy numbers for its budget. So I mean like. Terrifier 2, like sort of like, it's a great example of like, how like we've kind of come back to a time where something independent, if it's really fucking crazy and entertaining, can fucking like take over the fucking world. Just like Evil Dead did when there wasn't a precedent for it. So that's why I think it's such a good time for a new Evil Dead film from a new voice, with the guiding hands of the creators, behind it, like, because like I don't I don't think anyone has said to Lee Cronin, tone it down a bit. I don't think that
it doesn't look like it. Like, it's a shame that I've watched the trailer a couple of times now, because there's so many like little tiny bits of it that would have been like really shocking seeing them for the first time. But they have got some stuff in there which looks, oh my God, they are not messing around. They just want to make people go, that moment was crazy, wasn't it? And I think like nowadays, the kind of new version of, oh, you should watch that, it's so scary. The new version of that is, mate, wait till you get to this part, and you try to like gauge a reaction through that. Like Barbarian, like, just honestly go in, don't look at anything, don't do any research, just go in and see what happens. That's the draw now. And I think when it comes to movies like with what Evil Dead Rises, from appearances, it's like, those kind of movies where it's like they will be remembered for a scene or a couple of different scenes. Evil Dead 2, you've got the eyeball swallow and stuff like that. I think it's going to have a bunch of those in where it's like, oh, you remember that part of it?
And that's what I think. This is it, like, and like, I suppose, like, like I'm an old cunt, particularly, and like,
you do yourself a disservice, Kinell.
but we're like OG, we're like OG VHS guys, like, and flipping like, and like this is it, like, it's like the first people I talked to about horror were like my mates who I said, like, no, seriously, holding up my videotape of Evil Dead, You've got to Evil Dead 2. You've got to see this.
It's the same kind of thing.
That was it. That thing that sort of so engaged us with collecting and sharing with the world. I feel like we've hit that spirit again.
And streaming and
the
social media
studios are recognizing it, and the money men are recognizing it, which is the only thing that ever holds anything back. And flipping, like, I'll say it again. Lee Cronin has not been told to flipping rein it in a bit by anyone.
No.
Not anyone on the team, not flipping, certainly not Sam Raimi. Probably might have told him how to do something a bit better, but he wouldn't have said tone it down a bit. And like the money men were like, we're going to get paid. So
that's it.
The perfect storm of chaos for potentially with Evil Dead Rise.
Make it more chaotic, tone the dials up. People want their thresholds to be extended. People don't want to continuously see the same thing rehashed, the same possession movie, the same torture porn movie. They want experiences to talk about. And look at how well Terrifier 2's done. Terrifier 2 could be considered in the same way that Evil Dead 2 could be considered. You've got an original film there with Terrifier, which kind of proves the concept. It's got a lot of crazy stuff in there. But then Terrifier 2 is the one that blows up. And that's the one that makes the franchise explode massively. That's the one with even crazier moments than the original film. A better production quality.
Like, for all its craziness, like the original Terrifier is very much a post-torture porn slasher, isn't it? Like, and the craziness is they just show you some very explicit violence. And like that's what the craziness is in Terrifier 2. And the guy who's doing the violence is a bit of a weird-looking fucking clown guy.
Effectively, it's a simple enough.
Like Terrifier 2, it's like, no, we need these hallucinatory sequences and all this craziness and fucking part of it's like a bit of a TV show, and is it real or is it not? And like there's a lot of things that you don't see coming because this is it. People and like right through to mainstream audiences. Well, they want their horror fucking nuts now.
I agree. And I think you can tell from the financial side of it, horror movies are doing well again. There was a period where horror movies weren't doing particularly great in terms of overall box office. Smile was a massive success. Barbarian was a massive success. The latest Scream movie did really well. And that's now pushed on for Scream 6 to get made. Horror is popping. And I think studios are starting to pay attention to that.
This is it, like, because it's like we always have to say, well, there's always good horror around because there is consistently there is, but and as much as like I don't like going on about the importance of the Hollywood system and all that. It's like flipping when the money men realize that flipping like horror fans are going to turn up to the cinema and it doesn't have to be an existing IP. I mean, obviously this is, but
yes,
it's an existing IP that prides itself on being unexpected. Like like when the money men know that that's what we want, then we get that shit and we get a lot of it. And we did last year and it was fucking great. And we're going to get more this year.
It's already been a solid start of the year. I mean, like Megan is doing very well. It's obviously it's not a horror. It's got a lot of comedy in there, merely through Akela Cooper's writing. But it's
you're cooking this. Keep running.
Like, no worries. Welcome to Connor's Sinister Cinema. My guest Kinell is just taking a shot. Oh no, he's back. No.
I keep the fridge close by.
See, I don't. I'd be downstairs, fucking down, like it'd be like Evil Dead Rise. I'd be down like 4 floors. where was I? I've lost my trail of thought for being a clever bastard.
Kayla Cooper's incredible
Oh
comedic
yes,
writing on
thank you, sir. So yeah, with
this
regards to
gets edited out above a podcast, not the KSC,
no,
baby.
it's
One take
raw.
warriors.
One take warriors for real. Yeah, so with Megan, that's already done so well financially, and they've greenlit a second installment already. We're literally like, we're not even 3 weeks into 2023, and there are movies that are doing that well at the box office. They are getting greenlit sequels. That's cool. That is
Yeah.
cool. And it's going to be a strong year. We've got a new M. Night Shyamalan movie who's extremely controversial and all over the place, in all honesty. But his latest film, Knock at the Cabin, looks pretty good. That could be one that makes a lot of money, you know? It's a good year ahead, I think. We're getting a bloody
It's funny with M.
sequel to
Night
The Exorcist.
Shyamalan is that like he came out and he was the twist guy. They did some stuff that's a bit that what should we call it? That's not really as twisty, and like now like a lot of people consider him to have fallen off, and then occasionally he'll just put out a really good one, and like so it's like the twist is he puts out a banger.
That is actually like so true. Like Sixth Sense, banging twist, iconic. And then you get Unbreakable, great film. Signs was a good film for the most part. Then you get a shit like Lady in the Water. What's going on here? You get The Last Airbender. What are we doing now? But then every now and again, he'll come along again with something new and fresh, something like The Visit.
The Visit. Like I got a lot. I've only watched it once. I've got it on Blu-ray in this weird Blu-ray box set. But like I didn't know it was a Shyamalan involved or adjacent or directed or whatever it was. Like, and like maybe it was me being a dumbass, but I sat down and it caught me out.
Oh, it's my favorite M. Night twist. The Visit. I won't say it here if you haven't seen it, but for a man who's renowned for his twists, I think it's an exceptionally good twist. But yeah, it's nice to see him back working again. I suppose, all things considered. But it's just a good year. Like horror is popping like crazy. Like really, really doing well, going viral. Memes are getting done about horror movies so often now. Fuck me, the amount of Art the Clown memes I must have scrolled past over the like last few months has been insanity. There are brand new characters who are becoming icons. We've not had many icons since your Freddys, your Jasons, your Leatherfaces, your Pinheads, and stuff like that. But now you've got like a couple extra ones who are getting added to the list. We haven't had that for decades, so that's really cool.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and but if there's one that's still going strong, it is Ash. And
correct.
We haven't even touched on the Ash versus Evil Dead series.
That is true. We need to do that. Absolutely. It's a great series.
Yeah, fucking. I think every episode over all 3 seasons was completely banging.
I totally agree. I think that the strength of Ash versus Evil Dead, 1, the episodes are short. 2, the series are short. It doesn't bloat itself. I never would have thought that Ash was a character who would need supporting characters, but my God, they got good supporting characters. The Kelly and the Pablo characters are really fun. They all work together well as a trio.
Yeah.
But my kind of favorite thing about Ash versus Evil Dead, it has this amazing balance of nostalgia.
Yeah.
When they go back to the cabin, it's identical. The deer heads are the same place. It's still got that weird mirror where like the fake Ash reaches and pulls him in. It's still got the clock on the wall that we see in the zoom in on Evil Dead 2. All these tiny little features, which I remember so vividly, are there. They're present. Henrietta comes back. I haven't even spoken about Henrietta yet. I used to be terrified of Henrietta. And I still get nostalgic little fucking chills up the back from her popping up out the fruit cellar. In Evil Dead 2. Horrendous bollocks, that. So yeah, it's perfect for nostalgia as a series, while also adding to the lore. You see Ash's dad, his daughter, the
Yeah.
town he's from, the whole mythology of Ashy Slashy, you know, this
Yeah,
idea that he went to the
the
woods.
sort of aftermath, because like
Hmm.
obviously he was there working in S-Mart. At
Mhm.
some point, like the question had to be asked, like, what happened to all those people who went up the cabin with you? Because they're not here now, and
Mm.
one of them's my daughter. And you know, it's good that they tackled those issues. Like,
Yeah, that was a really, really fun experience. All three series feel like distinct
mm,
from each other. I love the ideas that they start drip feeding into. I think it's season 2, where they
mm,
go to the asylum for a few episodes, and it's this idea that Ash has actually just
mm,
like gone crazy, and the events of the first films were all in his imagination from what he
mm,
dreamed up from being psychopathic, which doesn't end up being the case. But the fact that they have dropleted, that's not the right
mm,
word, they've drip
mm,
fed that idea into those couple of episodes was really cool. And it recontextualizes the films
yeah.
we've been watching for, like 20, 30 years,
And this is it. They did play with a lot of what ifs, and it's
Mm.
very much been a series of that because on account of like how many times it's had to change direction, like because of what's I mean, like I don't. What was the ending you were originally familiar with the first time you watched Army of Darkness?
The first ending I ever saw was him oversleeping
Yes,
and
that's the
ended
one
up in
I
the way.
saw. That was the because I had a big box X rental, Transit Van Rex and Beast Market,
Mm.
and like they put that ending on there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if, for the sake of the series, the one they follow is him getting back on time and going back to S Smart,
Yeah.
um, Shop Smart, Shop S Smart. But with the apocalypse ending, it was like a nice, funny ending, and in a way, it means that you can watch Evil Dead in any kind of way you want. If you
Yeah.
want it to end on that note, it can. If you want it to continue on, it can. It can be whatever you kind of want it to be.
Well, have you ever heard the reason why the apocalypse ending was shot in the first place?
I have not. Do lecture me, please, Kinell.
Because at the time negotiations were happening for what do you call it, Sam Raimi to take over the IP for Planet of the Apes, and rather than bringing Planet of
Wow.
the Apes back, it was going to be Evil Dead versus Planet of the Apes.
Wow, that would have been monstrous. That could
Indeed,
have
man.
itself extended into the Ash versus all the iconic horror
Yeah,
characters that he fought in the comics and stuff like that.
yeah.
That would have been sick.
It would have been fucking incredible, wouldn't it? Like, and
Yeah.
if you go back and watch that ending, like flipping, you see like that's what they're doing, and it's such amazing. But Tim Burton, Hollywood's little fucking golden boy, got it and did that piece of shit with Wahlberg.
Oh
But
yeah. How do you feel about the monkey ape Lincoln versus the monkey Statue of Liberty? No, it's not the monkey
yeah,
Statue of Liberty. It's just the Statue of Liberty.
yeah,
Man, they've just rebuilt it with a chimp's head.
yeah.
That'd be stupid. Yeah, I
It's not
thought it
the
was.
same.
Yeah.
It didn't pop like that. That film just sucked. But I
Yeah.
believe it was like Tim Burton wanting to get the rights that got it away from Sam Raimi, and we could have been living in it. We could have been living in a very different world. But
No, you're not kidding, mate.
yeah,
Imagine like deadite apes, human-sized deadite apes.
yeah,
That would have been sick.
that was basically how it was going to go down. Like, because it was like they're looking to like flipping expand on for and bringing in the mythology of Planet of the Apes. They were looking to like sort of like combine the mythologies in one big film. They were just going to go
Mm.
straight. It was just going to go straight like from there, and like given what he demonstrated that he was capable of with this incredible fantasy vision. And like, I'm not a fantasy guy. Like, I'm not really into like me Game of Thrones and me Lord of the Rings. I can't really get on
Yeah.
board with that. Like,
Mhm.
but like, I love Army of Darkness. Like,
Yeah.
which is a fantasy action film.
Yeah.
Because they just did it right, and also it's got that familiar sort of Sam Raimi energy I love, and Ash. And like to pull it back to Ash versus Evil Dead, I VPNs and all that kind of thing weren't so much at the time. It was the fucking Showbox app, and but like I remember, like, you know, literally as soon as it was possible to watch Ash versus Evil Dead, I watched the first episode from that cold open. Like it filled me up with an absolute joy, like, and because I think one thing about it is they bring back, is like, you remember what I said about earlier about like how they did a lot of Evil Dead comics and they couldn't really get the voice of Ash right. It was just like a comic book action character who was saying things that Ash had said in previous films. Seeing Bruce Campbell back, and like obviously we've seen him in things like My Name is Bruce, Bubba Hotep. We've seen him in lots of things since, but seeing him back as Ash and like like being Ash, you know, nothing he said was something that he said in a previous film, apart from maybe Groovy at the end of the very first episode. But we got Ash's voice back, Ash's personality, and like that was what was so special about it.
He slipped back into that role with a concerning amount of ease. But then again, I suppose he was still playing Ash via voice for a couple of like video games, over the years, which were its own thing. You know, like Hail to the King on PS1 and Fistful of Boomstick on PS2. Degeneration or Regeneration on PS2. He was still like, you know, keeping the Ash characteristics in his system. But in terms of a physical performance, when did Ash vs. Evil Dead start? I think I've got it written down here. 2015, I think. So I'll go for 2015. That's a good gap from 1992 with Army of Darkness. That's a long time. So the fact that he can just like, he's back. It's so nice to see that he was just able to pick the mantle back up with ease. And yeah, as you say, he does have the
like for all the wisecracks are completely original, like and like
yeah.
Like every episode, there's a couple of like all-time Ash bangers, and they've not been said before. Machine. It's not a nostalgic thing. It's the character. Fucking hang on, is my voice still here?
Your voice is still there, Kinell, but it looks like we've got some deadites on the cam.
Ah, my camera's shut the bed.
Oh, dearie me.
Hang on, I'll figure it out.
Oh, we've got you back. Yes. Yes.
StreamYard trying to fuck with me, but we cannot be stopped. But
certainly
at least
not.
The fucking audio maintained clean.
Correct. That's a nice change up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ash vs. Evil Dead was a perfectly rounded 3 seasons. It's a shame that it didn't go on to a 4th season because I like the ending of it. How again we're now in this like future wasteland, and looking like it was going to take a more kind of sci-fi horror style route. Could that have led into your Ash versus Alien versus Predator type thing? Who knows? But I like the way it ended because it's the same feeling I got when Army of Darkness ended. It's like we don't really know if this is ever going to continue again, and if it does continue, how long is it going to be till we see it? It's that feeling of both being satisfied while also craving more. And I felt that after watching Ash versus Evil Dead. But it looks like that we're probably never getting Ash on screen again, which is sad. But I'm at least happy that they were able to get 3 entire seasons out of him being that character again, which to me is so much better than Evil Dead 4 because it's more content. And that's what you want. More.
It did ask all the flipping questions we needed it to ask, like, and that's it. That's why they end up in some flipping future at the end, because like flipping the Ash who started filming in 1978 and got released in 1981 through to the present day has been fucking consistent. Never been
has.
let down. Like, as I say, like
No.
flipping. I like to revisit Evil Dead 2013 again. Like, it is a banging film, like by anyone's standards, and like I do think it was the Evil Dead film that was needed for that era.
Yeah, I think so, because you look back on that time period around 2013, and that's when you start getting your Conjuring universe starting to get built. You've got stuff like Sinister, stuff like Insidious, and that whole franchise getting built.
Yeah,
It's kind of that like demon realm, dark possession type films becoming franchises.
yeah, and
Um,
coming off the back of what we call it, the torture porn
of the
era,
torture
like
porn era. So the 2013 Evil Dead fit well in there because that is also a very dark possession themed
yeah,
film with lots of crazy fucking violence in it.
yeah,
Like the blood, the use of fake blood in that was something like, you know, the quite famous ending sequence where it's the storm, the rainstorm of blood
yeah.
outside the cabin. 50,000 gallons of blood in that scene we used to film it.
Damn.
That's a lot of blood. I think the original only had a couple hundred gallons or something like that.
Yeah.
So the scale of production was just mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to go and check that out.
I think the girl I went with to let's see that on the first night of release. Think she still got me blocked on Facebook.
with
And
good reason.
I don't know what month it came out, but it's 2023 now, so we're looking at a 10-year anniversary.
That's absolutely banging. Bless, man. 2013, that's metal.
Hope she's doing well. Wish no ill. But yeah.
But yeah.
I went this way, she went another. You know what I mean?
Oh, should have just gave us some sugar, Carl, mate. Give us some sugar, baby.
Yeah.
Sorted. It's so crazy. It's been 10 years since that came out. Wow, that's a jump in time. But I hope to see more Evil Dead after Rise. I hope it does well.
I like the way they're talking. Like the Necronomicon can be anywhere.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think as long as they're keeping that like flipping attitude of we will give new talent the best shot and opportunities they could hope for, but we're picking the talent because we know what we're looking for. Like as long as that's maintained, this whole thing of the Necronomicon could be anything means we'll probably always have the Evil Dead with us. We'll always have new content, and like every time, like what should we call it, a new format comes out, I'm going to buy the old Evil Deads on it.
Yeah, I really need Evil Dead 2 on 4K. I don't even have a 4K TV. I just need it to see it because that is such a great film. But yeah, I'll always, I mean, as you can see, I've got my Evil Dead trilogy there.
Yeah.
Ash versus Evil Dead, season 1 up there. I'll always keep them in the
I've got me blues. I've been kind of like sitting tentatively about copping the 4Ks because like I don't think they're like all out yet. Like and like it all. And like I've seen this pattern happen across formats since VHS. When they drop them all, they will drop a super mega box set, and it'll probably be incredible. Like,
yeah, they
like,
will do.
I'm gonna want that, even though I've already bought the things I've got. Like, it's like the thing. I've always got like the things. The first thing I buy on every new format, often before I even buy the flipping thing, the device is capable of playing it.
Just so you've got it ready and waiting. I did that with what did I do it with? I did it with Dog Soldiers because I fucking love Dog Soldiers. But for a long time, only up until 2022, it was a bastard to get on Blu-ray because of region-related, I guess, laws and rights and things like that.
Yeah.
So you could only get it on a Region 1. And I bought the Region 1 of Dog Soldiers on Blu-ray, hoping that down the line I'll buy a Region 3 player. I couldn't watch it. It was on my shelf, but I couldn't watch it. But then, thankfully, this year they've done a Region 2 release. so I'll be getting that.
Yeah, flipping like the 4K, the 4K
Yes,
restoration. Flipping
yes.
that was the last thing I watched at Fright Fest before I went home, because I think it was his premiere of the restoration of Dog Soldiers. Neil Marshall and Sean Pertwee were there. It was in the Prince Charles Cinema, and it was the second thing on after the shorts block, where Marlowe's short film premiered.
Nice. Yes. Did it get a good reception, Marlowe's film?
It was fantastic. Like, it went really well. Like, I was sitting with Amwin, and sorry, I forget the name of the guy that's in it. Like, Marlowe was on holiday in Spain at the time. Like, but I've been speaking to him like after he produced it. I was like messaging him on Facebook. Like, I was messaging him on Facebook saying like when can I watch this short film? And like he got the message just after he'd been finished editing it. I think he like spent a long time editing it. You know, when you spend a long time editing something and you're sick of the fucking sight of it.
Yeah.
I think like that was his experience with it, with his first short film. I was like, oh no, let me see. So he let me see it. I was like, you know, you got to send this to some festivals, right? Like fucking pointing in the direction of Soho and that. Like, and the first one it got accepted for was fucking Fright Fest.
That's good going. That's very good going. That.
Yeah, it was played on the fucking shorts block on a what should we call it, the Sunday. And like I was gonna just like I went for the Friday, Saturday. I was gonna watch that and go home, but Dog Soldiers 4K was on afterwards. I thought, nah, I'm gonna stick around for this.
Stick around for that.
Yeah, fucking
don't blame me.
Me and Marlo did an episode like just before the Fright Fest premiere to kind of like impress the fucking like 12 people that fucking watch my shit to this point.
I'll tell you what, all 12 people are the best.
He was going on about how much he loves like Quentin Dupieux.
Yes, of Rubber fame, of course.
Yeah. And like what you call it? When I was coming out of the when I was coming out for a quick ciggy, like between the shorts block and Dog Soldiers, he walked past. Fucking I was talking to I told Brad Hanson like I don't know if he was in there for the full shorts block, like Marlo was on first, like, but he was present.
That's
like literally days earlier, like Marlo was like going on about how much he loves him as a filmmaker.
That's crazy. It's cool that that's the case, that
Yeah.
Marlowe's film's being able to get seen. I would love to see Marlowe's film. I've not seen it yet. What's it called, Kinell? Can you recall?
I think it's called like Everyone Forgot or something. It's Everyone Forgot or No One Remembered. I'm mixing it up in my head.
Quite an ironic title at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fire. I'll have to check it out because it's a good guy.
Yeah, like he's been doing a couple of festivals with it. I think like it's been in a couple of festivals like overseas and that, like so it's doing that, but at some point he's going to like just drop it on us.
Brilliant.
I recommend you all check that shit out straight away.
Brilliant. Certainly shall. Hopefully it leads to him getting a feature, perhaps. That would be cool.
I certainly proves his skill as a fucking filmmaker. Like, it's fucking fantastic. And great performances in it. And when Bolt fucking smashed it, like it was really like, this is the thing, because like we know Marlo from battle rap, obviously.
Of course, yes.
And like the thing is with battle rap is like you prepare your material and you perform it once and you find out on and like, so the first time the material is like performed to anyone, you get the immediate reaction of like the crowd that are like standing in a circle around you. So like preparing longer form content is like it's harder, isn't it? Like I mean, like,
yeah, I think so.
You're not getting that kind of instant feedback, so you don't know if things are like popping like that. And they were at the premiere, like it was a packed house, like the shorts block. It's like it's a lot of friends and family of filmmakers and shit and all, like so it's a lot of people who know what it is like, and fucking like all the jokes were just popping, man. All the bits that required a reaction are popping, like.
That's good. It's good to hear like it got a good response.
Yeah.
And things like, with like Fright Fest in particular, or like For the Love of Horror and things like that. I've never actually done any of those things. Because, my time in kind of like the horror realm of YouTube's been dedicated to actually making the bloody content to begin with.
Yeah.
So I would like to probably this year get one of those kinds of festivals and
Yeah.
experience them, and hopefully, get in touch with some people from within the industry and maybe have them on as guests or things like that. Just
Yeah.
just mingle with the horror crowd, because it's a
Yeah.
fun community of people, definitely.
Yeah. What should we call it? I'd say like fucking like, if nothing else, you got to go Fright Fest, haven't you? That's fucking like it's the horror Glastonbury, isn't it?
That's the main one. That's the main one that I would like to get to, certainly.
Yeah, I'm like I went for a couple of days and a bit of the Sunday last year, but I'm doing the full weekend. I'm like writing it off. I'm like fucking booking like I'm at the point where I'm not telling people what the name of the really good hotel that I stayed that was quite affordable and nearby until I've got my shit booked because it was so good and affordable. But I'm gonna I'm gonna be like that. So yeah, we're fucking like maybe we could be on the scene, like do another bit of fucking a bit of on the scene content and that at fucking Fright Fest. I will also say, fucking like, for some lovely people in the horror community, definitely make sure you are following what should we call it, Soho Horror Fest on Twitter.
Yeah.
And like keep in touch with them, because like what Mitch organizes, that's very much the like sort of niche indie end of it. But that's where I like met some of the coolest people I know best from the community. And it's so like, because they do virtual events, like, and even like usually they're in November, but it'll probably do something virtual for like Pride and this kind of thing. And like that's where I get all. But Mitch is like my fucking like a plug for like anything queer horror related.
Ah, nice. Yes, a nicely emergent genre is that as well, with like bodies, and they, them, and stuff like that's been pushing quite a decent amount in recent times.
This is it. Like it's the indie talent you got to watch for. Like as I said yesterday, like they them feels like Jason Blum was just going, we need to have the first horror film with a non-binary title or something, and they just tried to get something out quick. It didn't feel like right here, but like I'd say you got Shudder, haven't you?
I actually surprisingly don't. I lend Shudder. I don't have my own, but I would happily have any recommendation.
Whack on Death Drop Gorgeous, la.
Death Drop Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds. I'm going to give it a quick IMDb actually, so I've got it stored for after the old chat.
Yeah.
So
flipping like queer horror's mad, because like the magnitude of it goes from like the deepest like coming of age things and cerebral fucking dark things that make me like reassess like fucking how I've what should we call it, like not had to experience these things and seeing the world through someone else's eyes, like right through to fucking like drag queen slashers. Penis goes through a glory hole and into a sausage mincer in the first 5 minutes of the film. Like.
All right, that sounds like potential content-worthy reviews right there. Definitely.
Yeah, I think I've got flipping. Like, I've got a Death Drop Gorgeous fridge magnet.
Wow, that's a wild fridge magnet.
Because the people who what should we call it are like quite closely related, and like when I stopped in at the Soho Horror Festival, like not last year, the year before, flipping among the bump included like some Death Drop Gorgeous stickers and
nice rare limited edition merch that you've got here. Yeah, that'd be valuable sometime.
Yeah.
Sick. It's it's nice that all these like different spectrums of society and cultures and things are getting represented. And over time, obviously now there's so much backlash to everything because that's just the way the internet works. But
this is
over
why
time,
this is why I need a plug to let me know who the cool indie creators are like.
And like, you don't know where being an indie creator will take you. I mean, like to link it back to Evil Dead, like Lee Cronin has now got Evil Dead on his resume from a couple of random films in the past, a few indie productions, one fairly not mainstream, but fairly decent distributed production, and now he's got Evil Dead. So you never know with the indie scene who you're going to bump into. Or who they're going to become.
This is it, like, man, like fucking, like you've got to have your little plugs. Like fucking, people think I'm like this fucking got encyclopedic knowledge guy. No, I just know who the encyclopedic knowledge guys are.
Yeah, that's all you need. It's who you know, mate. Yeah. It's who you know, definitely.
Yeah, I fucking like I know the plugs for these things. If they tell me something's cool, I'm on it.
Fire.
Yeah, man.
Fire.
Hey, fucking like we hit an hour and a half there, and like I'd say at least most of it was about the Evil Dead.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So we could probably riggedy wrap it up there. But yeah. Before you go, do you want to hit us with what you want people to get eyes on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are Unleash the Ghouls on YouTube. With currently 28,000 subscribers and counting. We are also at Unleash the Ghouls on Instagram. And then there's myself. If you just want to follow me as me, I am at Conslaught, which is onslaught with a C at the start. And that's about it. Yeah. Plenty more content coming out. More regular Nightmare Fuel episodes. More honest reviews. It's a good time. It's a good time to be an Unleash the Ghouls fan. But equally, a good time to be a Sinister Cinema goer, with plenty of great content regularly coming out.
Yeah, check that. Obviously, we got the Twitter, Sinister_Cinema, and we got the Twitter, Sinister.Cinema. But to be honest, I'm mostly just promoting these episodes on there. So follow my personal shit at COLAK on the Twitter. I'm always up to some craziness. I'm always up to some nonsense. You know, I'm rolling with Don't Flop, our new series, Adventure Rhyme. We're going to be doing a lot of very, 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 very stupid things. And we're going to be rapping while we're doing it. So check out our first one. I did a rap battle whilst being tattooed, which is out on YouTube about now. And yeah, that's it. Thank you to my wonderful guest. This has been the KSC. Peace. And there's the end recording button. Oh, no, I haven't hit the end recording button yet.
You're going to have to edit.
I never edit. Peace.